Welcome back. Edo State Governor Senator Monday Okpebholo says government would review the shops raised by fire at Ekpoma Police Division. The governor gave the assurance when he paid a visit to the police station to assess the damage to the shops constructed by the Police Officers' Wives Association. A statement released by the Chief Press Secretary on Tuesday, Okpebholo assured the affected traders of swift government intervention and renewed security action, adding that he felt deeply pained by the development and the recent events in Ekpoma, which point to coordinated attacks. The governor dismissed claims that the attackers were Fulani headsmen, insisting they were political elements bent on destabilizing the area. The governor was accompanied by some top government officials, including the Commissioner for Public Security and Safety, Honorable Ebia Festus Odianosen, the Commissioner of Police, Monda Kodnika, the Commander of the 4th Brigade Nigerian Army, General Ahmed Olatum Bonju, among others. People's Democratic Party, PDP in Edo State has demanded the immediate and unconditional release of 52 students of Ambrose Ali University, AAU Ekpoma, who were remanded in prison over their alleged involvement in last Friday's protest against insecurity in the town. A statement by the PDP's Publicity Secretary, Dan Osha Ogbegye, described the continued detention of the suspects, most of them students, as oppressive, unlawful, and a blatant abuse of power, adding that the protest was peaceful and constitutionally granted before it was allegedly hijacked by hoodlums. According to the PDP, the state government is punishing victims while failing to confront the real perpetrators of violence, warning that such actions threaten democratic expression in Edo State, and accused the Monday Okpebholo-led administration of failing to address worsening insecurity in Ekpoma and surrounding communities, which he said have been left exposed to kidnappers and violent criminals. He described the government's response as incompetent and authoritarian, arguing that only a government afraid of accountability would criminalize civic protest, and also reiterated its opposition to kidnapping and killings, while calling for the dismantling criminal networks operating freely across Ekpoma and nearby areas. Confirming the incident, Edo State Police Command spokesperson Eno Ekoedem said one person was shot by a soldier, and the case had been handed over to military authorities for investigation. Gunmen suspected to be kidnappers have demanded 100 million naira for the release of 8 Imoga indigents abducted on Friday night. The Okpayi of Imoga Kingdom, Oba Patrick Obajoye, who disclosed this, said the victims were kidnapped at Star Boy Hotel on Imoga Ibilo Road in Edo North, and the victims had gone to Ibilo for a function and decided to lodge for the night at the Star Boy Hotel, which also belonged to an indigene of Imoga. The king also said the kidnappers came to the hotel in army uniforms and brought drinks, pretending to be waiting for someone, and the kidnappers accosted the owner of the hotel and seized his 2 phones and tied their hands and led them into the bush on foot. The monarch commended the personnel of the Edo State Police Command and the state government for their efforts at rescuing the abductees. The PPRO of the State Police Command, Eno Ekoedem, said the 2 brothers kidnapped along Aduge Imoga Road in Edo State on November 10 regained their freedom after the abductors reportedly fell asleep in the forest. Akwa Ibom State Governor Umo Eno has directed commissioners to render accounts of their stewardship, including reports of achievements recorded in 2025 and projections for 2026. He said all plans must align strictly with the Arise agenda of his administration. A statement by the Government House Press Unit on Tuesday said Eno gave the directive while declaring open a 2-week ministerial briefing at the State Executive Council chambers in Uyo on Monday, adding that the briefing was convened to front-load the state's priorities and set a clear agenda for continuous and effective service delivery in line with the Arise agenda. Eno urged council members to mobilize their constituents to participate in the ongoing voter registration exercise, as well as the e-registration of the All Progressives Congress, while the Secretary to the State Government, Prince Enobong Uwa, commended the governor for his leadership and fatherly disposition in the state. Executive Council and also thanked him for the initiative. Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly has denied reports of passing into law a bill seeking to criminalize sexual relationships with married men in the state. A Facebook post by one Obiavel Albert Abigo claimed that the bill, allegedly sponsored by the Deputy Governor of the state, Senator Akon Eyakenyi, seeks to impose a 10-year prison sentence on women found guilty of engaging in sexual relationships with married men, while men would face a 2 million naira fine. A statement issued on Tuesday by the chairman, House Committee on Information, Honorable Jerry Otu, described the information as false and an attempt to tarnish the good reputation of the Assembly, and urged the public to disregard the information, stressing that the House remains committed to its constitutional role of lawmaking and will not be swayed by mischievous attempts to undermine its integrity. The statement further said the attention of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly has been drawn to a fabricated report circulating on social media alleging that the House is set to pass a bill criminalizing sexual relationships with married men. Abia State government has inaugurated a 7-man administrative panel of inquiry to investigate the crisis in Okun Ako community or Hafia local government area of the state, with retired Justice Kenneth Nwosu serving as chairman. This followed the crisis that erupted in the Okun Ako community a couple of days ago, which led to the death of community leader Mr. Igwe Akuma. Inaugurating the panel of inquiry at the JAAC Secretariat, Umahia, the Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Prince Uzo Umacheku, charged members of the panel to carry out their duties with diligence, adding that constituting the panel was necessitated by the unfortunate incident that occurred in the community, and the panel would determine the remote and immediate causes of the crisis. The Commissioner, who expressed confidence in the capacity of the members of the panel to perform, thanked them for accepting to serve and wished them fruitful deliberations. Former Governor of Imo State, Right Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, has formally joined the African Democratic Congress ADC after completing his registration at Umbutu Ward, Aboimbese local government area of Imo State, where he was issued his official ADC membership card with number 001. The registration was conducted by the Ward Secretary Prince Obinna Opara, while the Ward Chairman Chief Alex Ahamefula presented the membership card to Ihedioha. The historic event was witnessed by party leaders, stakeholders, and community leaders, including evangelist Dr. Obi Nwigwe, Mayor of Umbutu, and Honorable Jonathan Egbule, Chairman of Ahombise local government area, among others. Speaking after the registration, Ihedioha said his decision to join the ADC was deliberate and based on his belief in the party's principles of accountability, clear values, and service to the people, adding that Nigeria and Imo State required leadership focused on public interest and responsive governance. Ihedioha also said his decision to register at the ward level reflected his commitment to grassroots politics, while the Imo State chairman of ADC, Professor James Okoroma, led members of the State Executive Committee to receive the former governor and witness the registration. Welcoming him on behalf of the party, Professor Okoroma said Ihedioha's decision strengthened the ADC in Imo State and reaffirmed the party's commitment to internal democracy and grassroots demobilization. Lagos State chapter of the All Progressive Congress says President Bola Tinubu is not missing nor absent from his duties, following comments credited to Mr. Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 presidential election, who questioned the president's visibility. The party, in a statement signed by its spokesman, Mr. Sheye Oladejo, in Lagos on Tuesday, said the president remained fully engaged in the business of governance, both within and outside the country, and urged political actors to focus on issues of substance rather than optics. According to him, the president is not missing, nor is he absent from his constitutional responsibilities, adding that Tinubu had continued to discharge his duties with focus and resolve, guided by the constitutional mandate given to him by Nigerians. Oladejo also said the Tinubu administration had remained active on several fronts, including economic reforms, security coordination, and international diplomacy, and the efforts were aimed at repositioning Nigeria for sustainable growth and global relevance. He advised political leaders to engage constructively by offering ideas and alternatives that would contribute to national development rather than raising questions that could create unnecessary public anxiety and further question the whereabouts of Tinubu amid what he described as deepening economic hardship, insecurity, and leadership silence. Officers of the Zone 2 Command of the Nigeria Police Force have arraigned a man, Israel Onen, before the Federal High Court in Lagos over an alleged visa racketeering scheme involving 60 million naira. Onen was docked before Justice Ibrahim Kala on 4 counts bordering on conspiracy, obtaining money by false pretense, money laundering, fraud, and stealing preferred against him by the police in the charge. During the arraignment, the prosecutor told the court that the defendants conspired with others, now at large between 2024 and 2025, to defraud the complainant, Akinola Ayodele Emmanuel, and further alleged that the defendants' actions contravene provisions of the Advanced Free Fraud and Other Fraud-Related Offences Act, the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Act, and the Criminal Code. When the charges were read to him, the defendant pleaded not guilty, and following the plea, the prosecutor asked the court for a trial date and urged that the defendant be remanded in police custody. And in his ruling, Justice Kala granted the defendant bail in the sum of 60 million naira with one shorty in like sum. Justice Kala further directed that the defendant and his shorty must each deposit 2 passport photographs, the national identification numbers, bank verification numbers, bank account details, and phone numbers used for receiving alerts. Osun State Governor Ademola Adeleke has expressed deep sorrow over the passing of Alhaji Ghazali Lawal, the Asiwaju of Ikirun Land and the former Deputy Inspector General of Police. Spokesperson to the governor, Lawale Rashid, on the state's X handle on Tuesday said Adeleke described the loss as painful and devastating, commiserating with the people of Ikirun Land, Alhaji Lawal's family, and all who were touched by his life. Speaking on the late law enforcement officer's contributions, Adeleke said Alhaji Lawal had dedicated much of his life to public service, particularly in the Nigerian police, where he made significant sacrifices to ensure the safety and security of citizens. Adeleke prayed for the repose of Alhaji Lawal's soul and urged those left behind, especially his family, to find comfort in the memories of his remarkable life and the enduring legacy he leaves behind. Ondo State Governor Mr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa has granted amnesty to 7 inmates of a Nigeria Correctional Center across the state who had been convicted of various jail terms. According to a statement on Tuesday by the Chief Press Secretary to the Governor, Mr. Ebenezer Adeniyon, the development was to mark the 61st birthday of the Governor and as a demonstration of compassionate and human leadership. Ondo State Governor Dr. Lucky Aiyedatiwa has exercised his constitutional prerogative of mercy by granting outright pardon and release to 7 additional convicts serving various sentences in correctional facilities across the state. The statement said the 7 beneficiaries of the pardon were carefully selected based on verified reports of genuine remorse, good behavior, rehabilitation efforts, and strong prospects for successful reintegration into society. Residents of at least 15 communities in Abeokuta have protested against the planned demolition of their ancestral homes by the Ogun State government despite an ongoing court case. The protesters, including residents from Itori, Morgan, Ogoro, Kumapai, Jaguna, Lanki, and other communities, stormed the governor's office at Okemoshon, carrying placards with messages such as "Leave our ancestral home for us, Governor Dapo Abiodun, please come to our aid. Don't destroy our houses, don't let our labor be in vain, and don't demolish our houses, we have nowhere to go." The government, in contravention, notices sent to the communities accused residents of illegal development on government-acquired land and insisted that the land had been in the possession of their forebears for over 300 years and was never under government acquisition, while residents expressed shock at receiving the demolition notices, given that the matter is already before the court. Speaking with journalists at a briefing, the Baale of Itori Morgan, Oludare Shalako, said residents are deeply unhappy with those attempting to turn them into refugees within their own ancestral homes, adding that the previous administration demolished their houses within the Abeokuta metropolis, and after being forced to relocate to their village, the current government is also planning to demolish their homes. Global human rights organization, the Amnesty International, has condemned the continued detention of Kabiru Ibrahim Dalla and demanding his immediate release, describing it as unlawful and a clear violation of his right to freedom of expression. This is coming after Dalla was reportedly arrested over comments perceived as critical of the secretary to the government of Nasarawa State, Laraban Shuaibu Magaji. And Amnesty International, in a statement, said his detention reflects an alarming trend of repression against young Nigerians who express these dissenting opinions. The organization said that Dalla has been held for over 40 days at the Lafia Correctional Center in what he described as deplorable conditions, despite the absence of any justifiable legal basis for his continued incarceration, and further alleged that authorities are planning to subject him to what he termed a sham trial anchored on baseless charges, stressing that repeated applications for his bail have been inexplicably turned down. The rights group accused the authorities of abusing state powers to suppress free speech, while cautioning that such actions are designed to foster fear among citizens, particularly young people who use online platforms to voice their opinions, and therefore called for Dalla's immediate and unconditional release, insisting that freedom of expression remains a fundamental right that must be protected. It also expressed concern over the increasing number of young Nigerians who have been subjected to threats, arrests, unlawful detention, and harassment for expressing their views online, stressing that the trend is unacceptable and must be brought to an end. Suspected bandits have continued to attack several communities in Kauru local government area of Kaduna State, abducting residents and killing others. In a post shared on X on Tuesday, security analyst Bakasine raised the alarm of what he described as rising insecurity across Kauru local government area, and the latest attack occurred on Monday night in Karagen, Kauru. Where a young woman, Fatima Zara, was abducted by armed men. Bakasine listed a series of recent attacks across different communities in the local government, adding that dozens of residents have been kidnapped, while several others have lost their lives, while Ningi Kaku recorded 7 abductions and 1 death, and Kajungal had 6 people kidnapped and 2 killed. Other affected communities include Damai Goki, where 3 people were kidnapped and 1 killed, Falan Rishiwa with 8 abducted and 2 killed, and Kagadama, where 6 residents were kidnapped and 1 killed, while 3 people were abducted in Fajen, Rawa, 8 in Rafin, Iwa, and 3 in Ungunwan Baka. In Nasrawa Kadage, 29 residents were kidnapped and 2 killed, while Damanu recorded 6 abductions and 2 deaths, and in Rumaya, 28 people were reportedly abducted and 3 killed, while Zaman Chawa recorded 1 abduction with the victim still in captivity. But the most recent attack in Kadagen, Karu allegedly left 31 people kidnapped, 1 person killed, and 4 others injured. In Kizanya, 1 resident was killed and 3 injured. As at time of filing this report, authorities are yet to issue an official statement regarding the incident. Police in Kaduna State is yet to speak on the matter. Kano State Hospital's Management Board has ordered an investigation into an alleged negligence following the death of a patient, Aishatu Umar, at the Abubakar Imam Urological Center in Kano. The Executive Secretary of the board, Dr. Mansour Nagoda, directed that an immediate probe be conducted into the circumstances surrounding the incident amid growing public concern. A statement issued on Tuesday by the board's public relations officer, Mrs. Samira Suleiman, said the management had taken note of reports describing the circumstances of the death as distressing, adding that the board also acknowledged complaints by the family of the deceased, who alleged that Umar's conditions deteriorated while she was receiving treatment at the facility. She also said the probe would cover all medical and administrative procedures related to the case, and also expressed condolences to the family of the late Aishatu Umar, and assured the public that the matter would be handled with the seriousness it deserves. The statement further reiterated that patient safety remained a top priority and that the government would not compromise the quality of health care services in its facilities. This is coming after the family of the deceased alleged that comprehensive tests and scans were conducted, and that the results, they claimed, revealed that a pair of surgical scissors had been left inside her body during the September operation. University of Maiduguri has dismissed the allegations in a viral social media video alleging that some of its students were arrested for collaborating with Boko Haram insurgents, describing the claim as false, baseless, and mischievous. The registrar of the university, Ahmad Lawan, in a statement on Tuesday clarified that no student of the institution has been found to have any link with Boko Haram or any similar extremist group, and the institution management has never tolerated extremism or violence in any form, stressing that it has consistently remained at the forefront of countering violent extremism, promoting peace, and supporting national security efforts, particularly in the northeast region. According to that statement, the university community comprises disciplined and law-abiding staff and students from diverse backgrounds who are primarily committed to academic pursuits. The university further urged parents, guidance, and the media and the general public to disregard the misinformation, warning that the spread of such false narratives could cause unnecessary panic and damage the institution's reputation, and further reaffirm the institution's commitment to academic excellence, moral discipline, and the promotion of peace, security, and national unity. Jigawa State government has warned principals of boarding schools across the state against sabotaging the students' feeding program. This is coming after the state government dismissed and suspended several school feeding contractors over alleged fraud, supply of substandard food items, and inflation of student figures in some boarding schools. The action followed complaints from parents and members of the public, as well as unannounced inspections carried out by officials of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Special Duties in schools across the state. The latest warning came after a follow-up inspection at the Girls Model Boarding School Kodai in Duse. The state capital, and inspection led by the Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs and Special Duties, Awal Sankara, was aimed at verifying compliance with new quality standards introduced after the suspension of area contractors. During the visit, the Commissioner confirmed the immediate suspension of the school principal following the discovery of a 30% inflation in student headcount during the previous audit, while the vice principal has been appointed to serve in an acting capacity pending the posting of a substantive replacement. 10 suspects involved in a series of operations in armed robbery, drug trafficking and other crimes across the state have been apprehended by the Jigawa State Police Command. A statement by a spokesperson for the command, Shisu Adam, said the operation was carried out at the same time across the state and it resulted in the arrest of one wanted armed robbery suspect and 9 other suspects, while 7,028 illicit drugs, including rubber solution, sock and dye, and dry leaves suspected to be Indian hemp, were seized from them. The statement said police operatives from B Division, Hadejia, also recovered a white Jincheng motorcycle and had earlier been reported stolen from a complainant's house in Rinde Quarters, Hadejia town, while efforts are ongoing to apprehend the suspect or suspects connected with the theft, and the recovered motorcycle has since been returned to its rightful owner on board. The police spokesperson said public support through timely and credible information remains vital in the fight against crime, while urging residents of the state to redouble their efforts against criminal activities in the state. Operatives of the Zamfara State Police Command have arrested 2 suspected gun runners and recovered 2 locally fabricated AK-47 rifles during a stop and search operation along the Gusau-Funtua highway. The suspects, identified as Samaila Naibi and Samaila Aminu, were arrested at the checkpoint between Kotokoshi and Tazame by operatives of the Safer Highway Patrol attached to the Command Department of Operations after they were intercepted in a golf vehicle where the rifles were found concealed inside a sack. Naibi said a resident of Kuya village in Bungudu local government area of Zamfara state, while Aminu, who was driving the vehicle, is from Faskari local government area of Katsina state. A statement by the police public relations officer, DSP Yazid Abubakar, said the suspects and the recovered weapons were immediately taken to the Kotokoshi Divisional Police Headquarters, and the suspects and exhibits will be transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department for further investigation and prosecution. The Commissioner of Police, Ibrahim Mai Kabar, reaffirmed the command's commitment to tackling the proliferation of illegal arms and urged residents to provide useful information to support security efforts across the state. You are watching the Global News on Atlantic Television Network. We return after this break. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. This is the Global News on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. Federal government has allocated a cumulative 10.61 billion naira for the overhaul of engines on the Gulfstream G550 aircraft assigned to Vice President Kashim Shettima over a 3-year period. An analysis of appropriation bills from 2004 to 2006 has revealed the aircraft registered as FGW received the highest single allocation among all engine overhaul projects in the presidential air fleet, accounting for 55% of the 19.27 billion naira total spent on engine maintenance across the fleet under the President Bola Tinubu administration. The 13-year-old Gulfstream G550, which flies under the call sign Nigerian Air Force 2, when carrying the Vice President, has been plagued by technical faults that have led to cancellations of Shettima's international trips in the past. And in May 2024, Shettima was forced to abort his trip to the United States for the 2024 U.S.-Africa Business Summit in Dallas, Texas, after the aircraft developed a technical fault mid-flight. The incident occurred less than a month after President Tinubu was compelled to charter a private jet to Saudi Arabia when the same Gulfstream jet, originally assigned to the Vice President, developed an oxygen leak in the Netherlands. 4 months later, in October 2024, the Vice President again cancelled his trip to the Commonwealth Heads of Government Summit in Samoa after a foreign object hit the aircraft during a stopover at JFK Airport in New York. And repeated technical failures may have prompted urgent maintenance, which in turn drove the escalating budget allocations. He argued that the Gulfstream G550, now 13 years old, requires increasingly frequent and expensive overhauls as critical components such as engines approach the end of the operational lifespan, and the presidential air fleet, managed by the Nigerian Air Force and headquartered at the presidential wing of Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, currently operates 10 aircraft, including 6 fixed wing jets and 4 helicopters. Chief of Defense Staff General Olufemi Oluyede has assured officers and personnel of the armed forces of Nigeria that concrete steps are underway to enhance the salaries and overall welfare of uniformed men and women. Oluyede gave the assurance in Abuja at the 2026 Armed Forces Celebration and Remembrance Day, social nights for soldiers, ratings, airmen and airwomen, and the initiative was being pursued in conjunction with the service chiefs and with the approval of Bola Tinubu, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The CDS pledged that 2026 will be a better year for personnel of the armed forces, adding that arrangements were also being finalized to improve post-service welfare for personnel, particularly through access to soft loans for spouses and affordable housing schemes for serving and retired members. According to him, discussions are ongoing with financial institutions to provide low-interest loans to spouses of service personnel to enable them to establish sustainable businesses, while housing loan options have been expanded to ensure personnel retire into dignity. He also paid tribute to fallen heroes and acknowledged the crucial role of military families, describing their prayers and sacrifices as a silent but powerful force behind every successful mission, and further expressed appreciation to the President for his unwavering support of the armed forces, as well as to the service chiefs for their leadership and commitment to improving the welfare and morale of personnel. United States government has delivered critical military supplies to Nigeria in support of the country's ongoing security operations. A statement by the United States Africa Command, AFRICOM, posted on its verified X, formerly Twitter, handle on Tuesday, said the supplies were handed over to Nigerian authorities in Abuja. According to it, the command, the delivery underscores the United States' continued commitment to strengthening its security partnership with Nigeria amid sustained efforts by Nigeria and its international partners to enhance capacity in addressing security challenges across the country. This is coming after in November 2025, the Bola Tinubu-led presidency had appealed to the United States to deploy its military to help Nigeria fight terrorism in some states of the Federation. And following the request on December 25, 2025, an airstrike was conducted in collaboration with Nigerian authorities. The federal government confirmed ongoing security and intelligence cooperation with the United States following the operation, which targeted terrorist positions in the country's northwest, while the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said federal government remain engaged in structured security cooperation with international partners, including the United States of America, to address terrorism and violent extremism. Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission has arraigned Amadou Sule, Managing Director of TMDK Terminal Limited, and an associate of former Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai over an alleged 311 billion naira money laundering scheme. Sule was arraigned on Monday before the Federal High Court sitting in Kaduna on a 5-count charge bordering on money laundering and unlawful retention of proceeds of fraud, Money Laundering, Prevention and Prohibition Act 2022. According to the charge sheets filed by the ICPC, Sule allegedly exercised control over more than 311 billion naira traced to accounts held with 3 banks, and the funds were reportedly received from INT Towers Limited, IHS Nigeria Limited, IHS Towers Nigeria Limited, and Boas Commodity Limited for the supply of petroleum products. The anti-graft agency contends that Sule reasonably ought to have known that the funds constituted proceeds of unlawful activity, and further alleged that Sule and TMDK Terminal Limited unlawfully retained the tax components of the disputed transactions amounted to hundreds of billions of naira, despite allegedly being aware that the underlying transactions were fraudulent. The Commission described the action as direct handling and retention of illicit proceeds, exposing both the individual and the company to enhanced penalties under Sections 18 paragraph 3 and 18 paragraph 4 of the Act, and the charges were signed by Oswebeni Akoni Misinga, head of ICPC's high-profile prosecution department. The matter was adjourned to January 15 for hearing of the accused bail application. Federal government and the Academic Staff Union of the Universities, ASU, will on Wednesday, January 14, 2026, formalize a new agreement that will improve the quality of the university educational system and ensure stability. The Federal Government of Education, the Federal Ministry of Education, in a statement said the ceremony will be held at the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund Conference Hall in Maitama, Abuja, and will be presided over by the Minister of Education, Dr. Maruf Alawasa, and the Minister of State for Education, Professor Suwaiba Ahmad. The development followed a recent 14-day ultimatum by the union, and the strike was later cancelled before it began after ASU and the federal government held overnight talks, stressing that the new agreement reflected government's commitment to constructive engagement with critical stakeholders to resolving industrial disputes through dialogue, mutual understanding, and cooperation. A statement signed by the ministry's Director of Press and Public Relations, Folashade Boriowo, the ministry said the formalization of the agreement followed years of engagement between the federal government and ASU to address industrial disputes, and the agreement aligns with President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda, which recognizes education as a strategic driver of national development, human capital growth, and socio-economic transformation. The dispute between federal government and ASU had been a long-standing challenge for Nigeria's higher education sector, with recurrent disagreements over funding, conditions of service, and implementation of agreements reached at previous negotiations. And the strikes have frequently disrupted academic calendars, sometimes lasting months and leading to significant lost academic time, delayed graduations, and increased student migration to private institutions or foreign universities. Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund, has ordered the disbursement of 2.53 billion naira each to universities and 1.87 billion naira to polytechnics, as well as 2.6 billion naira to colleges of education under its 2026 intervention allocations. The Executive Secretary of TET Fund, Architect Soni Ekono, who disclosed this in Abuja at the 2026 stakeholders workshop with the heads of beneficiary institutions, said 271 institutions will benefit from the annual direct disbursement, which forms part of the 90.75% direct funding allocation for 2026. He also said direct funding comprises 50% annual and 40.75% special disbursement, while designated projects and stabilization funds accounted for 9.7% and 0.18% respectively, aimed at improving infrastructure, research, innovation, and academic programs. TET Fund further introduced the Nigerian Research and Education Net Fund, NGREN, to expand access to global academic resources, alongside interventions in ICT hostels, laboratories, campus security, and centers for robotics, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity.
Universities will get 2.525 billion naira each. All polytechnics will get 1.871 billion naira each. And all colleges of education will get 2.056 billion naira each. These funds are meant to strengthen critical physical infrastructure, enhance academic programs, boost research and innovation, and drive overall transformation in Nigeria's tertiary education sector.
TET Fund is here to support, but this support has gone beyond support but responsibility, as if. So I think that's why it is important, very, very important, that the public is involved in managing critical institutions.
The heads of institutions.
TET Fund is here to support.
Stakeholders at the event commended TET Fund's impact with calls for judicious use of funds and sustained emphasis on quality project delivery across beneficiary institutions.
The heads of institutions, you are highly challenged to make use of the funds given to you judiciously, expeditiously, so that when you expedite actions, you can request more in a very clear way. You can request for more funds.
Over the years, TET Fund interventions have significantly enhanced infrastructure development, academic staff training, research and innovation, library development, and the general learning environment across our universities and other tertiary institutions. These interventions have contributed immensely to improving quality assurance, relevance, and global competitiveness of our institutions.
That much is also desired, both from TET Fund and the beneficiary institutions, but with respect to project quality. I'm sure that Vice Chancellors, Provost, and rectors will agree with me that many of the projects that we have on our campuses cannot equate to the amount of money that have been voted for them. So we must do something about that.
Federal government has launched a new Federal Government of Nigeria savings bond offer targeting retail investors with competitive interest rates and low entry requirements. Debt Management Office gave the offer and issued it on behalf of the federal government pursuant to the Debt Management Office Establishment Act 2003 and Local Loans Registered Stock and Securities Act that is aimed at encouraging savings among Nigerians while providing a safe investment option backed by the sovereign guarantee of the government. Under the offer, investors can subscribe to a 2-year FGN savings bond due 21 January 2028, which carries an interest rate of 14.396% per annum, or a 3-year FGN savings bond due 21 January 2029, offering a higher return of 15.396% per annum. The subscription window opened on Monday, 12 January 2026, and will close on Friday, 16 January 2026, with settlement scheduled for 21 January 2026. Interest on the bonds will be paid quarterly, while principal repayments will be made in full at maturity. The DMO said the bonds are fully backed by the full faith and credit of the federal government of Nigeria and charged upon the general assets of the country, underscoring their low-risk nature. Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates have signed a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, SEPA, marking a historic milestone in trade and investment relations between the two nations. The agreement is expected to provide new opportunities for Nigerian businesses, professionals and workers, while strengthening economic ties under President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. A statement on Tuesday said after the signing ceremony which took place during the 26th Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week Summit with President Bola Tinubu, United Arab Emirates President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Nigeria's Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Jumoke Oduwole, and UAE Minister of Foreign Trade, Dr. Tani bin Ahmad Ahmed Zayudi were in attendance. Tinubu said under the SEPA, the UAE will eliminate tariffs on over 7,000 Nigerian products immediately, including agricultural and industrial goods such as fish, seafood, cereals, cotton, pharmaceuticals, and chemicals. Tinubu also said the agreement allows Nigerian businesses to establish operations in the UAE through corporate entities, branches, or subsidiaries, saying that business visitors can enter the UAE for up to 90 days in 12 months, and corporate executive managers and specialists can relocate under renewable 3-year visas. Now to some international tidbits. Venezuelan opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado will meet President Donald Trump on Thursday at the White House. Trump declined to endorse Machado, whose movement claimed victories in 2024's widely contested elections, as its new leader. The U.S. instead backed Delcy Rodriguez, Maduro's former vice president, while Trump had expressed displeasure over Machado's decision to accept the Nobel Peace Prize, an honor the president has long coveted. The U.S. has so far backed Delcy Rodriguez as Venezuela's interim president, while Trump describes Rodriguez as an ally, and she has not been charged by U.S. officials with any crimes, but Machado said the coalition should absolutely be in charge of the country. The former legislator, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize last year, described U.S. military action in Venezuela as a major step towards restoring prosperity and rule of law and democracy in Venezuela. Former United States Navy sailor Jane Wei has been sentenced in federal court to 200 months in prison, approximately 16 years, after a jury convicted him of spying for China by selling U.S. military secrets to a Chinese intelligence officer. A statement by the U.S. Department of Justice said Wei, 25, also known as Patrick Wei, was sentenced in federal court after a jury convicted him of espionage in August 2025, while the Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said members of the United States military swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Meanwhile, the Assistant Attorney General for National Security, John A. Eisenberg, said Wei violated his oath to the country, while the Justice Department, Wei said U.S. security clearance in his role as a machinist's mate and had access to a sensitive national defense information about the ship's weapons, propulsion and desalination systems. U.S. Attorney Adam Gordon said the betrayal struck at the heart of our national security and warranted a severe sentence. Death toll in a collapsed landfill in the central Philippines has risen to 11 persons. The landslide occurred at the Binali landfill in Cebu City last week, while more than 100 workers were on site, and officials have so far pulled 12 injured people out of the debris, but more than 20 people still remain missing. The incident has sparked calls for investigation into the cause of the collapse, as well as a review of the country's waste management system, while the department also said it would conduct an investigation into the cause of the collapse and hold to account the responsible parties. Lawmakers have called for reviews of the country's waste management cost system and working conditions of waste workers. Here now is ATN Sports News. Angola Football Federation are looking to prize away Malian coach Eric Chell from Nigeria. A number of African coaches have reportedly expressed interest in Chell after A number of African countries have reportedly expressed interest in Chell after the great work he has achieved with Nigeria at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations. The Super Eagles have impressed in Morocco with their sublime attacking style of play, and Chell is on $50,000 a month and has a year left on his contract with the NFF, while the Angolan Federation are now offering to double Chell's salary with $100,000 to make him their new head coach. Nigeria National League (NNL) has postponed the kickoff date for the second stanza of the 2025/26 Nigeria National League (NNL) season. The second stanza, which was earlier scheduled to kick off on January 31, will now commence on February 14, 2026. A statement by the NLL on Tuesday, the change is due to logistical and other circumstances, and the new fixture list is also expected to be released soon to accommodate the revised schedule. 4 teams will gain promotion to the Nigeria Premier Football League (NPFL) at the end of the season, and the promoted teams will be determined at the NNL Super 8 playoffs. And now, entertainment news. Controversial singer Habib Okikiola, popularly known as Portable, was arraigned at the Federal High Court in Ota, Ogun State on a 9-count criminal charge. According to Ogun State Police spokesperson Olushayi Babashayi, the charges include assault, theft, causing harm, and resisting arrest. The arraignment follows a viral video on Sunday showing the singer in police custody, reportedly over a complaint filed by his East-trained partner Ashabi Simple. The prosecution alleged that Portable assaulted Ashabi along with several police officers and other individuals at his bar in Iyana, Ilogbo on New Year's Day, while other alleged victims named in the case are Ileyemi Damilola Akinyanju, Oluwaboshayome, Olowu Olumide, Demilade Ogunniyi, and Ebuka Oda. Portable is also accused of stealing a Mercedes-Benz E300 valued at 12 million naira belonging to Ileyemi and purchased from Valley Dex Auto. Nollywood actress Regina Daniels has kicked against allegations of theft against her amid the ongoing maritime crisis with Senator Ned Nwoko. The actress challenged that her estranged husband Ned Nwoko was responsible for the accusations. Regina claimed that an arrest warrant had been issued against her and some members of her family over the alleged theft. She, however, strongly denied the claims, stating that they were false and unfounded. According to the actress, the allegation that $40,000 was stolen from her husband's home is illogical, as she maintained that the senator does not keep cash in his house. Famous Nigerian filmmaker Funke Akindele's newly released movie, Behind the Scene, has become the first Nollywood film to surpass 2 billion naira in cinema sales. The distributor in his post on X revealed that the new achievement makes Funke Akindele Africa's most commercially successful filmmaker in Africa, highest grossing producer, writer and director in West Africa's history. The actress was also named as the first filmmaker to rank #1 for 3 consecutive years at the African box office. And that's the global news for tonight. Before we go and look at the major stories. Okwebelo promises to rebuild burnt shops at Ekpoma. Ihedioha receives ADC membership card in Imo State. Federal government also to unveil new agreement Wednesday. Federal government set up new savings bond offer for investors. Trump to meet Venezuelan opposition leader Thursday. Angola gives Shell transfer offer. Portable arraigned in court over multiple offenses. I am favor. Chief Question Michael. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter now, X at Atlantic TV Net, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, and on Instagram at Atlantic TV Network. And don't forget, peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Do have a wonderful night rest.
That much is also desired, both from Third Fund